Hey guys, welcome back to Techno Back. This is Parikshit here, back again with another video, and this is the third video in our SQL injection part. Okay, so as we are looking into the web application vulnerabilities, and our first vulnerability is what we are looking is like SQL injection. And as you know that we have already covered two videos before this where we have already covered the error based, union based, and in the blind SQL injection we have already seen how the boolean based attacks and time based attacks we can do, what is it and how we can do all this kind of things. So I have already covered them, and the another next thing what we have now left over with is the remediation on these vulnerabilities. So as we have already learned like how what is this vulnerability and how we do it, or how we perform this, or how we penetrate it, right? So if you know how to perform this kind of vulnerability on any web application now, so it is also very important that for you to know how you can remediate it. Like suppose if you are working for any client, it is always necessary that what is the recommendation that you are providing to a particular client. If you are working as a freelancer, it will be also again helpful for you to understand what is the remediation that you can recommend to the client you are working for. And this is exactly we are going to see in our today's video, where we will learn about the different remediations we can perform on the SQL injection vulnerability. Alright, so let's understand what are these remediation and how you can perform it. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so we already have the preventions or the remediations listed over here, and among them the first one is validating the freeform user input and removing when necessary. So the application should validate the user input, what input is passed by the user, whether it is a character or number. So like let's say let's understand by this example. Like if application is expecting a number, and if user is entering a character or any other bad character, or suppose a number in place of a character, so the application should validate it, and it should make sure no bad entries are getting passed, and it should validate it before itself, before executing or before passing it to the server, right? So this is what the first thing a web application should do, and this needs to be implemented at the web application, right? So that it will prevent so many things, like if user is passing something else into the input field, so it will prevent it at the first place itself. Okay, so we'll move to next one, and here before I tell you about the stored procedure and other things, I will first cover up the input sanitization part, because this is pretty much similar to the validating of a user input. So here also under the input sanitization, this is like it's the process of removing and any unwanted characters from the user supplied data. Like for example, as we have seen in attack, how we have like passed a single quote, and we have passed some other entries right along with that. So this is what the input sanitization checks here. It will check if any bad characters are passed here, like a single quote or a slash or a double quote, like this kind of character. So if these kind of characters are passed into the input field, it will sanitize it, I mean it will remove it completely from there, right? And then only it will pass it to the database, right? So this is what will happen. This is again a very important remediation that we can recommend. Alright, and also the next one here, as we can see, the error should not be user facing. Alright, so here like what we have seen is like suppose if we are passing single quote and let's say enter, we can see that we are getting error, and due to this error we can understand that this particular parameter is injectable, or this website is vulnerable to the SQL injection, right? By reading this error itself here, right? So this is what is the remediation. We cannot say that it's a remediation, it is just like a preventive measure. We can say it should not be user facing, I mean the user should not be able to see this kind of error. Like even if like let's say suppose if we are passing a single quote here, the error should not be appear here on the screen, right? it should not appear here. So as we have already seen like how it happens in the blind SQL injection, even if there is a vulnerability, but we will not know or will not get any error or will not be able to see that, right? So that's exactly how it should happen, right? But again, as we have already seen how we can bypass that kind of thing as well, like by testing some blind or like a time based or boolean based attacks. We have seen that, right, already. So that is definitely the one thing, but this is again a preventive measure that at the first place we should implement it, right? And next we will see here, so we should whitelist the input validation, like what should be passed, what is allowed in the web application or in the input field of the web application, it should already be whitelisted, or some of the things also should be blacklisted, or some keyword or some like a single quote or like say double quote or some this kind of thing which it should not be passed using the input field, right? So these things like we can blacklist them. So we should maintain this kind of keyword which we want to whitelist, or the other keywords which we want to blacklist, right? So that is another thing. And now is the time where I will tell you about the stored procedure. So this is the very effective method to prevent the SQL injection vulnerability. So what is stored procedure? First of all, so usually what happens, SQL query can be modified at the application level, right? So like here if you can see, we can just provide some single quote, or let's say just and we can also do some union, and we can add other queries or something like that, right? So here we can add some kind of query and it is getting executed here itself on the application level, right? We can get the result here itself, right? So what is happening is, guys, like when you're typing something here, okay, union and let's say select and 1 comma 2 comma and 3, right? So this is like you are performing a query, and you are performing a query from this application or the front end level itself, right? From the application level itself, and this is again going and executing it, right? This is going and executing it, and it is giving a result back to us, right? So this is exactly should not happen. I mean, this is giving you an opportunity or like access to directly communicate with database, so you can directly perform any kind of query here, and it is going and performing a respective task into the database. So this is exactly we need to avoid, or it should not happen at the application level, and we need to create this query at the database level and not at the application level, right? So this is exactly we do. What we do is like we create this query at the database level itself, okay? So when we are like supplying any kind of input in as like let's say username and password, so only the username and password is going, not the whole query, right? So at the database level the query will be executed, but the query will check, or it will take an input from the application level, only the input. So the username and password will be only passed to the database. It will not go in a form of query. All right, so this is what will happen. So this is exactly the very effective way for preventing the SQL injection vulnerability. Again, another similar way here is the prepared statement. Okay, so we'll now see what is prepared statement, and here the prepared statement is again a parameterized and reusable SQL query which forces the developer to write the SQL command and provide the data separately. So this is exactly work just like a stored procedure with just a little difference. I will tell you what is that. And here what is happening, like you can see, this is like a query. In general, what will happen if you have a query here, so what will happen in the query is like a select star from user, where username equal to user your user, and password equal to your password, right? So here your password will be there, here your username will be there. So this whole query will go to the database, and then it will perform the respective task, right? Because we have called this query into this result parameter, right? So as you can see, the user provided data is embedded directly into the SQL query, right? Now in this case, what will happen, like suppose if user is inserting the admin and a dash or 1 equal to 1, so here admin is username, and in password what he will do is like a or 1 equal to 1. So again, like here the condition is true, and the what database what it will do is like it will directly fetch the result for all the username and password. So this kind of thing can happen, right? So this is exactly happens in the normal unsafe approach. And in a prepared statement, what we do is like we create a separate statement, and in the statement we store just a query where it will like a select star from user, where username equal to question mark, and again password equal to question mark. But again, in another statement we are storing the username and password, and during execution what a database will do is like first it will check this query, or it will take the query, okay, and in place of this placeholder, okay, so here the question mark for the username and password will act as a placeholder, and this placeholder will be then replaced by the actual username and password which was inputted or entered by the user. So in short, if I will tell you, what we are doing is like we're taking a value and searching into the database and not a whole query, right? So we are simply taking the values and searching in the database. So in this case what will happen is like, suppose if attacker is entering a username as admin and password as a or 1 equal to 1, so username will be taken as admin and password also will be taken as it is, as a single quote or 1 equals to 1. So this whole thing will be taken as the password, right? So the database will not perform any action, instead it will search for this password is available in our list or not, right? This kind of thing will happen inside there, and this is what will prevent the query to be executed, a bad query to be executed, or we can say this is exactly the another alternative good way to prevent the SQL injection attack. Okay, so now we will see what is the difference between this prepared statement and stored procedure. So the only difference here is like in the stored procedure the query is saved in the database itself, okay, in this, and the SQL code, you can see the SQL code for the stored procedure is saved into database itself, and it is called from the application, which I have just explained to you. While in prepared statement, the statements you prepared, you need to call them or you need to execute them every time, okay. So this is the only difference between these two methods, and these both methods are the effective methods for preventing the SQL injection attacks. Alright guys, so this is about it. This is just about the remediation of the SQL injection vulnerability, okay. So I hope you understood this concept of SQL injection, what it is, and I have already explained you about the each type of the SQL injection. We have also performed the SQL injection by using every type we have seen here, and I have also told you like about the remediation, how you can prevent this kind of SQL injection attacks. Okay, so if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new to the video. Also don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you will get the notification for the next videos that I will be uploading. So in the upcoming videos I will be coming up with the new web application vulnerability, where we'll be learning about that particular web vulnerability. It could be anything, but it will be the interesting thing to learn these kind of web application vulnerability. We will see what is it and how we penetrate it, and then we will talk definitely about the remediations on that. So thanks for watching guys. Till then, have a great day and bye bye.